So in this case, her analogy, the bride was in tears is Allianz lah. No.
I would think
Oh
so.
no,
Yeah.
NTUC.
NTUC, okay.
Yeah.
NTUC, the bride, yeah.
Allianz is the group.
And then the parents are NTUC Enterprise lah, the parents.
Then Shiok Tat and Tong Tong. The godparents.
They are the, I don't know, the maybe the, what do you call it, the justice of peace, putting the marriage together.
No, Tong Tong is the one who put his hand up,
Oh, yeah.
Shiok Tat said, anyone speak
Shiok
now?
Tat is the justice of peace in this one.
Then Tong Tong.
Speak now, whatever, hold your peace.
Okay, I speak. As you get older, you definitely want to be more careful about what you put into your mouth. I'm talking about food, more specifically, meat. Now, there is so much you hear about the benefits of getting free-range meat that is ethically sourced from trusted suppliers without any unnecessary freezing and kept as clean as possible. But meat like that is always so expensive. Well, now there's another option. Introducing The Meat Club. They're an online-only store launched in Singapore back in 2014. And they focus on a subscription model with no retail store to keep their costs as low as possible so that they can pass on all the savings to you. So it literally is a club for meat. Actually, not just meat, because they started out with just lamb and beef, but have since expanded into poultry, pork, deli items, vegetarian options, fresh fruit and vegetables, and even collagen protein products. And right now, they've got a special offer just for all you listeners of Yalabad. Use the code YLB20 for $20 off your order. And remember, they also offer 15% off every subscription delivery, free minced meat for life for orders over $100, and members' perks worth over $140 in value. So join them today by clicking on the link in the show notes so you can cut the crap and eat good and feel even better with some awesome meat. Delivered right to your doorstep whenever you need it. And now, on to the podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
Oh, how's the week been, man?
Been raining a lot, yeah?
Yeah, man.
Raining. I like the weather. The temperature is down. It dropped to like 23.5
Oh, is it?
at one point, a couple of days ago.
Apparently, like the rains in the western part of Singapore yesterday was amongst the highest in 40 years.
40 years.
40 years.
Wow.
And then I have some family in WhatsApp group sending me videos of Singapore roads being flooded.
Yeah, I saw the same videos. There were some captions that Singapore is now the Venice of Southeast Asia.
Oh, is it?
Because people were standing on like the bus stop seats and all.
But which roads were there? Because I know like 2 weeks ago, a pipe in Marine Parade burst and that flooded. But that was not because of rainfall. Yeah. But these videos were of where?
Just roads, bus stops. I think there was a picture of a base of a bus or so actually flooded. Yeah. You know the first step on the bus.
Yeah. I know some coffee shop, people had to stand in a flooded coffee shop also or something.
I suppose so. Anywhere there's low-lying, on the first floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that's the reality, right? Like, climate around the world is just all these insane patterns. Every day you hear something, first time in 40 years, first time in a decade.
So then you think this January will Singapore hit a new lowest temperature? Suddenly sub like 20. Have you gone sub 20 before, right?
Sub 20, did we? I thought like 22 was
or
like
maybe haven't gone sub 20.
I just remember there was that year when like literally like the floor was so cold everywhere you stepped. The tiles in my place also popped because I think the tiles contracted.
Is it?
Things like that. Yeah.
But and people in jackets and scarves.
Yeah, you could wear jacket and scarf and go out. I remember wearing socks at home. That was how cold I remember it being.
Terrence, soft no you. Socks.
Look at this. Look at this macho man here. Shitting on people wearing
manly
socks.
soles of the feet. What you gonna do?
Masculinity, You are the epitome of.
I did not say anything about gender. I didn't say anything. I said you're soft.
You just said man. You just said manly or that what?
Okay lah. But you made noise when I said soft lah.
Yeah. Why just because I take care of my body and my health, then you say people soft. So you expect people to suffer through the cold, is it?
I mean, once in a while, cold, you got hot therapy for your feet. Cold therapy also probably some good lah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I enjoyed wearing the socks. It wasn't even about really protecting myself, but it's just the
cozy
feeling.
Cozy.
Yeah, it was cozy and you can snuggle and everything, This kind of thing you just enjoy in life, Harsh. It's not all just about being the most efficient person in the world.
Efficient.
Just pushing things through, and they're not in a good condition.
You be grounded lah. You grounded.
No, it's not about that. You need to take a step back.
Push what when it's not
push things through and it's not in your favor and all lah.
Like when?
Like when you're cold and then you refuse to wear socks lah. You're like, I will just suffer through the pain because I'm a man. That kind of thing. Just like our topic, where they're pushing things through.
Hey, don't equate
thinking,
me with that.
Without looking at it carefully.
This whole topic is damn charged, okay? You want to make fun and like whatever I say, yes, but this is two separate things. Okay, do not.
Mister, I can't take a joke. I can't take a joke on a Wednesday morning. This is too important. My job is too important.
The topic is too charged already.
Can't take a joke.
Hey, Terrence, okay? Been doing this for 10 years already, okay? But I couldn't take a joke. Because that is not say okay, never mind. I'll save it. But yeah, lots to talk about. Both topics quite interesting. But before we do that, what's our regular spiel, Terrence?
If you enjoy listening to this, especially if you're new and you're wondering like why we spend so much time talking and bantering, all that. Well, that's the style of the podcast, and this is the only podcast in Singapore where you're going to get unfiltered views of like, Singaporeans who are reading the news, reading out Reddit, going to Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, going to Sammy Boy, and finding out everyone's...
Going to state courts.
Going to state courts.
Parliament.
Going to Parliament and trying to find out the views of everyone, online and all.
Walking the ground.
Walking the ground, literally. Quite literally, right? Yeah. Except that we didn't walk the ground that day with Pritam Singh because it was raining.
Because it was raining.
We stood in the shade.
Correct.
But yeah, if you want to do that, please like, share, follow, subscribe for more of this unfiltered views.
Yeah, and if you want to work with us, you can check out ministryoffunny.com or send us an email at contact@ministryoffunny.com.
Yeah.
And we will get back to you. Sometimes it might take a while, but we'll get back to you.
Yeah. Just as a quick thing, everyone's talking about the trial, Pritam Singh's trial, and we were even there at State Court today. Why are we still not talking about it? Just a quick note.
Okay, good point. Because like we went there on day one, and we've been keeping track of what's been happening on day one, day two, even today. But I don't know, like it feels like there's still so much info that has yet to come out that if we talk about it now, right, it'll almost be one-sided because they haven't even gone through one complete cycle of people taking the stand. So that's for me. For you?
Yeah, I think one lesson we've learned over the years doing 500 plus episodes of this podcast is there is a point where you almost too soon, where you cover a topic too soon because it's in the midst of evolving and new news coming. And this is the topic that I think where every day there's something new coming up, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of want to, be able to listen to everything and take a step back and then see everything and give you the added perspective of having been in state courts itself and having watched Raisa Khan give her statement and everything as well.
Yeah,
right?
and literally on day one, there were videos we saw online of people saying, Pritam did this, Pritam did that, because the prosecution was taking the stand.
Yeah.
Day two, defense took the stand.
Yeah, it's a very different story.
Very different story. Yeah. So, gotta wait, man.
Yeah, you gotta wait.
So, we are definitely...
We will talk about it, but I think there's also other big things that we also want to talk about.
Yeah, just so happen at the same time.
Yeah, same time.
Same time.
But I think you, like you said, you're very charged about this. So what is this topic that's charging you up?
It was the news that in the parliamentary sitting on Monday, 14th October, it was announced by Minister of MCCY stands for Ministry of
Culture, Community and Youth.
Yeah, correct. Otherwise known as like the man who brought Tay to Singapore. He announced that the proposed Alliance income deal was blocked. That the government stepped in to block it.
Yeah.
And he gave a 30-minute ministerial statement, which was followed then by questions from people like Leong Man Wai, Hazel Pua, He Ting Ru, Gerald Giam, Joan Pereira. And there was a back and forth between them and Edwin Tong and Chee Hong Tat, who is the second minister for finance, Ministry of Finance. So that's what happened. Like, how did you find out about this?
It was breaking news while we were literally at the state courts.
Yeah, at the state courts.
So you can actually use your phone in the state court, so you can still see news. And I saw the breaking news and it was quite shocking. I think I immediately pointed it out to you as well.
Yeah. But what was your initial thought seeing it?
Shocking. Because I think we've had multiple conversations about it. We've even had Mr. ex-CEO of NTUC Income, Tan Kin Lian himself, come on and, talk for almost an hour and a half about it. And I think from what most people were seeing, that it seemed to be a done deal already, right? Like the way in 6 August in Parliament, a lot of MPs like Alvin Tan and Cheong Tat were talking about it and sort of pushing it through or defending the deal, right? It seemed like a done deal.
Yeah.
So I was very shocked that there was this turnaround. And anecdotally, people who work in finance have also said to me, like, there's too many people who stand to gain from this transaction. It is going to happen regardless of public perception, right? So so I was very shocked that there was this reversal.
But like, what was your emotions? Since July when this was announced till like Monday when it was announced that it will not happen.
I was kind of resigned to the fact that it was going to happen, right? So it was a shock for me. It took me a while to process it and read through everything and better understand the rationale for the government blocking the deal.
So are you happy?
I mean, I think it's bittersweet lah. You kind of like while yes, it seems like the concerns of people have been heard. TLDR, concerns of people have been heard. But the question is, how do we even get here in the first place? Why are we in this position? It seems, like what I mentioned, something being pushed through, even though maybe it wasn't in the best interest of Singaporeans. How about you? What is your TLDR emotion?
I think when it was announced and when we covered in the podcast, I think I was like very unhappy that this was going through.
Yeah.
As a layperson, of course you're like, hey, what? But then you hear the statements in, I think August, right?
Yeah.
The parliamentary sitting in August. You hear Chee Hong Tat and Alvin Tan almost talking down to people who were questioning it. And I say talking down, I know there's a subjective interpretation of it, but when I rewatched the videos today, it really was like trying to explain the situation that, NTUC Enterprise tried every option out there. They really wanted a local majority shareholder, but there was no option.
Yeah.
And, we need to understand as, lay people that the insurance industry is like that. So when this was announced that it was not going through, I was actually quite happy. And I was actually quite proud that, the voices have been heard. The government took a stand.
Yeah, Tong put through.
Tong put through, man. He pulled a stop. He came in and laid the smack down, man.
Yeah.
But then, after watching the parliamentary videos, right, I got them pissed. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today. And understanding the sequence of events of what happened and when they happened, right? Wow, a lot to talk about.
A lot to unpack. But do you think we need... I think we should go through a little bit of the basic timeline of how things were, right?
Yeah. So basically on 17th July, Allianz made an offer to acquire a 51% stake in Income for $48.58 a share. So it was a deal that was worth about 2.2 billion.
Yeah.
And it was being reviewed by MAS. That's what you're being told. I think right from the start, already a lot of people were up in arms. I think Tan Kin Lian from the start, another ex-CEO also, there was a lot of talk. And then it was discussed in the August sitting.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of questions, I think, from over 10 to 12 other MPs, which was consistently rebutted by Moss, Alvin Tan and Chee Hong Tat. But what happened after that, right, which is what Edwin Tong shared in his ministerial statement, that after the August sitting, the MAS, which was the sole government entity overseeing the deal, felt that certain terms may be of concern to MCCY, which is, from what I understand, the ministry that oversees cooperatives and entities associated to cooperatives.
Yep.
And one of which was this bombshell that of the $2.2 billion that Allianz will pay to acquire NTUC Income, 1.5 billion or 1.75 billion of that.
No. I think the how you're framing it is very important.
Okay. So
I just quickly puff you there.
Okay.
They will pay 2.2 billion for a majority 51% stake in Income, right?
Yeah.
So that's like the purchase price. But at the same time, NTUC Income, or Income, right? Has a capital surplus of
already
I think close to 2 billion, like 1.85 billion.
Yeah, yes.
And as part of the deal structure, within 3 years of the deal closing, that 1.85 billion would actually be returned to shareholders, which means shareholders, including the new shareholder, Allianz. So Allianz will get back maybe around 51% of that 1.85 billion, which would mean that they effectively pay only about 1.2 billion or so for Income, which is a very big discount to 2.2 billion, right? So that was the term of the deal that stood out a lot to MCCY lah. And why they stand out so much?
Because if you look at the history of NTUC Income Insurance, it was created in 1970 as a cooperative.
Yeah.
And I think when Tan Kin Lian came, and a lot has been written about it, there are specific things about a cooperative which seems to really imply that they're putting members first. It's generally members first, and then they do their best to keep the business running, but it doesn't feel like it's profit first.
Social mission.
Social mission. Yeah, correct. So in 2022, when they wanted to corporatize, according to the Cooperative Societies Act, we'll call it CSA, there's a certain section 88, that says if a co-op is wound up, the members will be paid their capital and dividends up to a cap. The surplus funds will be transferred to the Cooperative Societies Liquidation Account, CSLA. So basically, what that section implies, and what I understand, is that because it's going to be corporatized, in some way, it is winding up the cooperative, and then this new entity being the corporate, which means that all the excess capital at that point in time should have been returned to the CSLA.
What does the CSLA? Why would it?
Because the funds there are discharged to the general co-op sector in Singapore, so it's helping cooperatives.
Yeah.
But there was an exemption that was sought and approved, that the 2 billion
by MCCY, right?
Yeah,
MCCY approved this exemption.
Correct. That the 2 billion surplus would carry over to the new entity. So in some way, the money that was supposed to go to the CSLA was given the ability to carry on to the new entity, because
corporate entity,
because in the defense was that it would still be serving the exact same people with the same mission, but that capital would allow it to do it in a better way.
And I think also as part of the corporatization exercise, NTUC Income said that it would help their capital buffer as well, by having a surplus of money, right?
Yeah.
It would. The idea of corporatizing was to have more capital buffer to allow them to be more efficient, more competitive, everything, right?
Yeah. Because part of the reason why they wanted to corporatize was, at that point in time, they said the insurance landscape is very challenging, it's a lot more competitive, there are a lot more players, and to survive, we need capital, which is understandable.
Yeah.
Very understandable.
Yeah.
So it was because of that Tong Tong stepped in, and MCCY in general, saying that, okay, you agreed this in 2022, but now you're saying that the capital surplus you have now, which is that 1.85 billion, will be returned to the shareholders. So in some indirect way, a similar amount to what was the surplus that was supposed to benefit the social mission will go back to the shareholders, 51% of whom would be Allianz. Which felt a bit like, this is a very convoluted way of the money that was supposed to go to the CSLA to benefit the co-op sector is not going to go there. Yeah. So that was one big piece of news that was new to everyone. Right.
And immediate is, Evan Tong said that particular term of the deal struck a chord, right? CCY, and saw that they made it. They saw that it would not be in the best interest of Singaporeans or the social mission, right?
Yeah, correct. So in the news articles, they highlighted the three reasons that Tong Tong shared for MCCY's decision. One is the plans to return the 1.85 billion in cash, which goes against the exception that they got. Then second, that MCCY was unconvinced that Income would still be able to continue fulfilling its social mission after the deal took place, because there's no binding provisions or structural protections. And it's not clear what Income would do after the capital extraction. Then the third reason is that MCCY is not confident of NTUC Enterprises' stated intentions and Income's assurance of maintaining the social mission. And he pointed out that, they won't even be the majority shareholder. So electing the chairman, they might not have the person they want. So those were the three main reasons. And then he also announced that because of what happened here, and he and Chee Hong Tat defended MES, saying that, from a prudential perspective, and up to yesterday, I didn't even know that prudential is an actual word.
What's the definition of the word?
I think being prudent.
Involving or showing care and forethought, especially in business.
So, fucking brilliant of Prudential to name their company that.
A lot of product placement in this parliament sitting.
I really never knew it was an actual word. I thought they were just, the root word was prudence and then Prudential. So it was mentioned many times that they were defending that from MES's perspective, they did the right thing. And it is due to their holistic thinking that felt it was needed to share the info with MCCY. And because of this whole kerfuffle, they are proposing a change to the Insurance Act.
Yeah.
Which we will get to. But generally, that's a bit more specific of a timeline.
But my idea of the change of Insurance Act is because there was no provision for MAS to step in and block the deal, right?
No, there is no reason for MAS to listen to MCCY.
Oh, okay. But now they're changing the Insurance Act in order for there to be something in the law that says MCCY can tell MAS.
For anything that is a co-op or related to co-ops.
Okay, got it.
So in some way, it doesn't apply to income insurance because it's a corporate already.
Yeah.
But I think realizing that, it used to be a co-op, it got corporatized, but that means if you start off with a social mission, which falls under MCCY, just because you corporatize, I mean, you still have some sort of relationship, which is what Tong Tong is trying to enforce.
Yeah.
So, where is all that happening? What are your thoughts, Terence?
Just going back to what you were saying earlier, from, I think, 6th August, right? We saw Alvin Tan and Chee Hong Tat defend the deal very passionately in Parliament, right? I kind of differ from you. I don't think that they were necessarily being condescending or talking down to people. I thought they were very emotional about it. I mean, Alvin Tan himself said it's a very emotive issue because income is special to all of us, and he literally said NTUC Income's capital buffers are under pressure. So there was this painting of NTUC Income is damn jialat now lah. The situation is damn jialat. We all love NTUC Income, right? We must help it lah, right? The capital buffers are under pressure lah, right?
They tried everything.
The NTUC Enterprise had to pump in 100 million to, keep it afloat and everything during the pandemic. So it kind of, this new development or statement or terms of deal kind of completely contradicts that, right? If the capital buffers are under pressure, as they say, how come suddenly after a foreign buyer comes in, straight away you can release capital surplus to shareholders, right? It goes against that entirely. So I'm very confused. How come, someone in his position, Alvin Tan, Second Minister of Finance, all that, was so passionately saying that NTUC Income capital buffers are under pressure. And then at the same time, literally one of the terms of the deal is that, we're going to release this capital surplus to shareholders. Completely contradicts it. And the fact that it was already approved. By the time they even debated in Parliament, it was already approved by NTUC Income's board and NTUC Enterprise, the parent company as well. Quite shocking, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, if I had to fathom what may have been the case, and that's something that Tong Tong also said in his ministerial statement, that even with that capital extraction, income would still meet the requirements set out by MAS. For entities like that.
Sure.
So they're saying from MAS's perspective, they were prudential as they could be, They were super prudential.
Yeah.
So maybe it was the case that, okay, right now it's under stress, but the moment we have a majority shareholder in Allianz who have a shit ton of money, then it's no longer on what we hold as an entity because we can tap on their resources. I don't know. That's purely speculation.
Okay.
Right? Purely speculation. But that being said, right, it just... So the reason why, when I heard the news, I was like, hey, actually, must give credit where credit is due. The government stepped in. You look at the parliamentary videos, right? So there's a ministerial statement from Edwin Tong for 30 minutes, then the back and forth.
Yeah.
I think the opposition MPs were asking good questions. Even Joan Pereira from PAP was asking good questions.
Okay.
But the way it was responded to, I think some of them, I can't remember who asked what, but some of them was saying, okay, why was this info hidden? Granted that, I mean, it's such a big thing that totally derailed the whole thing.
Correct.
And how can we be sure that in future going forward, this doesn't happen? Will NTUC or NE be held accountable?
Yeah.
Given that their board approved it. And a lot of the responses were like, I explained it in my speech, but maybe you did not understand. So let me explain to you again.
Okay.
And I felt like there was a lot of beating around the bush.
Okay.
Yeah, so...
You didn't like the tone of it, lah.
Yeah, and I mean, this is... I would say objectively, it is a screw-up, lah.
Okay, maybe... Whose side? I think you need to quantify. Right now, for people listening who are very confused by all the different acronyms and all that, right? I think it is very necessary that we, very clearly differentiate what MAS, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, is doing versus what MCCY, which represented by Edwin Tong, right?
Yeah.
Is saying, right?
Yeah.
MCCY, MAS already sort of looked at the business side of the deal, and they felt that okay, and what they focused on was whether Allianz would be a good suitor, right, for income.
And whether all their criteria and benchmarks and all are met.
So from what I gather from hearing is that they were looking purely at that aspect, like whether Allianz would be a good partner and whether they would help fulfill social mission. But the exact terms of the deal was something that MCCY was scrutinizing more carefully, right? Obviously, MAS maybe they saw that term of the deal, then they raised it up to MCCY, But MCCY is the one that said that, hey, so this term of the deal is not a good deal for to maintain the social mission of this income, right? And and the promises that were made previously during the corporatization exercise, that this goes against that. So I think still got it's important to still differentiate between MAS and MCCY responses. Because you might I think I also want to back away from saying that everybody knew everything that was going on in the deal. Because my own experience working in finance in M&A and mergers and acquisitions in the site is that there's a lot of fine what do you call it? Fine print, right? That needs to be scrutinized. And the fact that this is, across different ministries or across the stat board and ministry and everything, some of these things need to be
private.
And sometimes the flow of information is not also like at one shot you understand the whole deal and everything.
Yeah.
So MCCY, granted, maybe they needed time to look through the thing. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you asked, the board of NTUC and the board NTUC Income, NTUC Enterprises, they were advised by Morgan Stanley also, and all of them said, it's a great deal.
Yeah.
It's a good deal. How did that happen, and how come none of them thought that, there might be some issue that we need to raise to MCCY first, right?
Yeah. So, maybe my screw-up word was a bit too superficial. But there are many things here that sound a bit like, how come? One is like the board approved it.
Yeah.
And I recall that, I can't remember whether it was mentioned in Parliament, but there was a lot of ridiculing of anyone who said that, income insurance has a social mission.
I would say maybe not in Parliament, but like from the Calvin Cheng and the very pro-business side.
Yeah, and we kept on hearing that, yes, they started off as a cooperative, but they need to become a corporate to do what they need to do, which is to provide for Singaporeans. And we need to raise the funds. And I remember feeling like, shit, am I just too idealistic? Am I too soft? Sometimes you want a company that can live on rather than a dead company that, does good and all.
Yeah.
But then now,
soft, wear socks. Wear socks when it's cold and stuff like that.
That one got no social mission there. What social mission? You're using more cotton, like all the labor for cotton and all.
Yeah.
So Terence, yes.
Okay.
But the social mission thing was mentioned so many times in the speeches, right? Which sounds like what a lot of people are saying. Then the other thing was like, I think, of course, like Leong Man Wai was a bit more extreme, saying, was information withheld. I can understand what you said about MAS. They can't just disclose everything. And I also don't think it's good that if every ministry shares everything about every deal with everyone.
Yeah.
Because it'll just be too much. But, when you hear the responses, I think when they were questioning that, I think one of Chee Hong Tat's responses was like, no, but that's why we wanted to bring it to Parliament to discuss it transparently and openly.
Yeah.
Which, okay, you are bringing it to Parliament, but it almost felt like up till this was raised, it felt like, it's a done deal. And there's no acknowledgement that, was it because of the public outcry and the questions by opposition that made MAS give it to MCCY?
Yeah.
Because the thing that was painted was like, MAS, they were reviewing it and they felt it was prudent to share it with MCCY. But then, I would imagine that because of the outcry, there was a lot more focus on it.
Yeah. So at this point, I think we also should do shout out to Tan Swee Che, right? And Tan Kin Lian, right?
Yeah.
The former CEOs of NTUC Income, and Tommy Koh also.
Oh, Tommy Koh.
Ambassador Tommy Koh, who spoke up at length about these issues. And Tan Kin Lian even came on the podcast because without them, I think maybe this, it might slip under the radar of a lot of people also, right?
Yeah.
But it's because the three of them made a lot of noise about it and focused on the social mission side of things, right?
Yeah.
That I think a lot more people came to have attention to it. And even speaking of Calvin Cheng, like I said, at first he was ridiculing a lot of this social mission thing. But you go to his Facebook now, he still is ridiculing the idea of NTUC Income having a social mission, but he has backtracked and in some ways he has tarik a bit and said that it's a very bad deal. How did this deal even get approved in the first place?
Yeah.
So business side of things. So he's asking, how could anyone have looked at the prudential elements of this and thought this is a good deal for income, right?
Yeah.
So again, questions to me, the question goes back to MAS side, right? What was going on in MAS side? How come the MCCY, Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth, has to step in and tell, and scrutinize the terms of a business deal and tell MAS, hey, this one got something wrong.
It's basically like you imagine this guy who just wants to make all the money, right?
Yeah.
Then someone is like, hey, then you're being damn shady. Can you think about this?
Yeah.
And
think of the ethics, think of the morals of this.
Then Tong Tong is probably, I'm trying to bring Beyonce, Jay-Z, Adele to Singapore.
I had the Pope here, man. I had the Pope,
man.
Yeah.
And you can't even do this kind of things that's good for Singaporeans.
Yeah.
No, but going back to what you said about the 3 individuals who spoke up, right? I do recall even myself, right, thinking, maybe they're just past their time.
Old fogies.
Right? Old fogies. Maybe they're not. This is the new world,
Yeah.
Maybe I also am just too idealistic and too romantic about the idea.
As Jack Sim says, you are being gaslit.
That's right. And it felt like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, Tan Kilian has been ridiculed a lot, right?
Correct.
But when he came on our podcast, I felt I learned a lot.
Yeah.
We got a lot of comments that people learned. But it still felt like, he's an old man, go Forest City, walk around.
Yeah. And you go to his Facebook now, I think there are like 20 posts on his holiday in China and then 1 post on income.
Then like another post, then another 20 posts.
Yeah, so just warning first, if you're going to check out Tan Kilian's Facebook, get ready to see a lot of videos about trains and
he posts a lot.
Mirrors selfies.
So it's just you watch the thing, you're like, hey, is there no acknowledgement that there is? That's why I would say it's some way I wouldn't say it's a screw up, but there's something wrong.
Yeah. I would say really focus on the NTUC enterprise, the board of directors for NTUC Income, and MAS's processes. I feel like something there is off, right? I mean, having been in that line of, M&A and all that, I feel like, obviously the interest of the bank, usually the interest of the bank is to pursue a transaction, right?
Yeah.
However, it is so, if the bank says it's good for whatever reason, they stand to make money from it, and we need to examine the incentives for the bank to say that, right?
Yeah.
Especially, and that's the reason, even when I worked in finance and all, I did not work at one of those bigger banks. I worked at a smaller bank, a boutique bank that supposedly prided itself on its independence of financial advice. That means they wouldn't tell you to do a deal just because they can get a transaction fee from it, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of but NTUC Enterprise and the board of NTUC Income, that's where I'm like, what are the incentives, right, in pursuing this, right?
Yeah.
And so doggedly pushing it through, and they even made statements calling Tan Swee Chay's statements unfair, and
casting aspersions and shit like that.
But now everything we're looking at this and we realize, hey, it was a bad deal, right?
And I mean, there's that golden rule, right? Whenever you hear a deal or negotiation being done, think about who is benefiting.
Yeah.
Right? So in this case, I do recall it being made public that in some way the shareholders of NTUC Income would benefit because they would get a return, right? Which is all well and good for the people who also were there when the cooperative was formed. But it just paints a very shady image of when you hear money moves through the corporate world and all that. This is like seeing deep down, hey shit, there was this billions of dollars ultimately ending up in people who they were not meant to receive in the first place.
Correct. Yeah.
And of course, there is PTSD from our own experience on a much smaller financial amount, but for a 2-person company, it was huge with Hook, right?
Yeah.
And what the PTSD is that here you have MAS looking at it from a purely numerical and financial sense. And it makes perfect sense. But you need almost the conscience of another ministry to come in and say, hey, this is not good. And then the end decision is overall is not good.
Yeah.
With Hook, when they liquidated, we kept being told this is a business decision, the impact and all, the company cannot survive. Then I'm like, fuck lah, how many times does this happen in all these instances? And to see it happen on this scale, at least the ending here is not as chalat lah. But it just feels like, hey, how did it come to this state?
Yeah. I mean, I maybe the Hook experience, for people who don't even know, is a very personal experience and everything. But I would say, not just Hook, but you look at all the layoffs that were have been happening recently, and the response of the unions and MOM and all that, and sort of like Dyson and feeling blindsided by Dyson's moves, for example, right? There is this sentiment in the general public like, hey, how come our whole system here is so easy for the businesses to do whatever the hell they want, right? And then the man on the street doesn't have much say or anything lah. And I think that is making people question that truism that it's very important to take care of the businesses. If not, they will leave Singapore and things like that, right? So this is quite a big deal in the sense that it's the government sort of coming in and saying, no, it's not just about what the businesses want also, but there are considerations that are important. And even Lawrence Wong also put out a Facebook post about it, right? Which do you think this is what the Singapore under Lawrence Wong is going to be more of, where government
take out my tinfoil hat.
Okay.
I agree with you that in some way it does send a message. Objectively, right, at the end, I'm still happy that the government stepped in. I think the inner workings and the sequences of things is the disturbing thing. But overall, the headlines are international also. Here's this big foreign entity that wants to come and buy up a majority stake in this local company that has a social mission, and the government says no. So I don't know whether this is the future of Singapore under PM Wong.
I'm a bit disturbed, right? That we had already got to this stage where practically everything was approved, and MAS people from we had Senior Minister of Finance, we had Second Minister Alvin Tan also almost defending the deal. We got to this stage already, and then now government steps in. But so quickly, suddenly, we want to change the law.
Exactly.
That's a part that actually also makes me a bit like, whoa, you mean like we can just change the law like that to make this change, right?
Yeah.
That also kind of surprised me a bit, right? Maybe rather than so drastically immediately just changing laws, the earlier process of like even approving the thing shouldn't be so rushed, or shouldn't be allowed to be so quickly pushed through in the first place. Right?
Yeah, and we haven't even spoken about that, which is a huge thing, because both Tong Tong and Chee Hong Tat said, this is an urgent matter.
Yeah.
So we are tabling the bill today. It's going to be discussed today as we record 16th October in Parliament.
Yeah.
With the goal to have it passed.
Yeah.
So, of course, you think, actually, it does make sense for MCCY to oversee, co-ops or companies related to co-ops. But to pass a bill that fast is damn worrying.
Yeah, it's worrying.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, wouldn't MAS have seen, shouldn't MAS be able to see some of these issues, right? People work MAS and all, they are better experts at all these things than we are. But do they not see these issues that, ex-CEO of NTUC Income and all were pointing out, right?
Yeah. And
or even like, that special concession given to NTUC Income when it was corporatizing, did they not see that there would be some red flag for MCCY?
Yeah, so it's just like, so that means I think it may be passed, right? And I think the thing that was being communicated that this is in the best interest of Singaporeans, which, I can see the value.
Yeah.
But it just feels a bit rushed. And, this one like fucking big silver foil hat. Because, I went on paternity 3rd September, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking, I'll be back, early October. I might miss parliamentary sitting.
The first one.
Yeah, the first parliamentary sitting where this was going to be an issue discussed. But then it was announced that it was on 14th October.
Okay.
Right, which, normally my layperson understanding is always the start of the month.
Okay.
Then I was like, okay. And then just so happened that the trial starts,
Yeah.
And we were there. There was Pritam, there were quite a few WP MPs there also.
Okay.
And it just feels, it's an odd coincidence.
But that's what it could be. Entirely a coincidence.
I'm saying it's a curious.
It could be entirely a coincidence. Maybe it's you stretching or something again.
Yeah, maybe my dad brain My dad brain is a curious coincidence.
Yeah.
It's going to be discussed on Wednesday where the trial is still happening. So I'm curious. Yeah, curious coincidence.
Yeah, I at this point I also really want to just hear Alvin Tan's thoughts about this also because. I think for me, it's seared into my mind that he was one of the defenders of this deal. And even the headline, when you watch the video of him, when you watch the YouTube video of his parliamentary response to Leong Man Wai, on 6 August was Income-Allianz deal, the best alignment to protect Singaporeans for the long term, right? So, yeah, it was really, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to use the word gaslight because I think that's used too much already. But he was, like I said, he was so emotional about it, and it seemed like he understood like what, income meant to Singaporeans and all. But he, also was saying, wow, it's so bad, the capital buffers are being pressured already, we need to help them, and let them do what they need to do. So
Actually,
it's just such a different take now.
That's the crux of the thing, right? Like what we were saying, MAS, if you look at process-wise, they did what they had to do, right? MCCY, process-wise, they did have to do. I think where it gets a bit dicey is like Alvin Tan, who is representing MAS.
Yeah.
He dragged in the fact that this is going to benefit the society of Singapore.
Yeah.
And that's, if you speak purely from the MAS perspective, and you say this actually makes sense, it meets all our requirements.
Yeah.
We need to change the criteria going forward, but for now, we didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
But then when you borrow from the social thing, when it is not under your prerogative, that's where it feels a bit, you're picking and choosing.
Yeah. And I mentioned NTUC Enterprise and the board of NTUC Income, Lim Boon Heng, like what was their thought process? Did they look at this term and then feel that it was aligned with Singaporeans' interests, right? Yeah. So it's I find it hard. I find it hard to reconcile that between 6 August and now there's suddenly everyone woke up and realized, hey, this term of returning 1.85 billion to the shareholders might be a bit of an issue,
Yeah. Then it makes you think, right? The fear of like a lot of Singaporeans, lay people like me, is that, Singapore has become Singapore Inc., where it's big entities coming, but it's always in the best interest of Singapore. It's always. Maybe Tong Tong and his ministry didn't look over deal. And I'm not saying give out super credit to Tong Tong, but I mean, the fact is, like, if MCCY spearheaded the blocking, I didn't have to give them credit.
Yeah. So, at this point, I mentioned I had a friend who said that this deal will go through because a lot of people still make money from it. I'm not gloating at the fact that, my friend was proven wrong, right? But I'm actually thankful that he pointed that out to me, because then it really made me examine, like, okay, it gives me a perspective of like why certain people or entities are trying to push through this thing, right? And the funny things you look up, there's this Straits Times article that came out a few hours ago, 12 hours ago, something. Fraying of Allianz income deal shocks insiders. Coming with new proposal, no easy task. I found this article interesting because everything else is basically just a repetition or just reporting what was in Parliament. But this one, they claim to have talked to insiders or people close to the deal, and there's a lot of unnamed sources that they said that say that they are talking about the terms of the deal, right? So it's very uncharacteristic of Straits Times to have so many like, he say, she say, but I cannot say who said it, that kind of thing in this article. And apparently, according to this article, a lot of the parties in the deal were shocked by this decision and only found out right before the parliamentary announcement. Yeah. So it's quite an interesting thing that Straits Times published this, because I would have imagined that they would need to source more carefully, right, when talking about these things. But they said, but I think they're confident in their sources to say all this. Yeah. And there are a lot of analogies of how the groom was left at the altar, the bride was in tears, and the parents were stunned. So yeah, this Claire Huang, this senior business correspondent at Straits Times, was very emotive about using all these analogies.
I was just skimming, and in the first line it was a marriage of convenience, but I didn't know that marriage theme
goes all the way through, all the way through. And even at the end, as the saying goes at a union, speak now or forever hold your peace.
In the end, the groom in question was left at the altar, the bride was in tears, and the parents were stunned.
Yeah. Well, so she really exercising her creative writing for this news analysis.
So in this case, her analogy, the bride was in tears, is Allianz.
I would think so.
No, NTUC.
NTUC, okay.
Yeah.
NTUC, the bride, yeah.
Allianz is the group.
And then the parents are NTUC Income, NTUC Enterprise, the parents.
Then Shiok Tat and Tong Tong. The godparents.
They are the, I don't know, maybe the, what do you call it, the justice of peace, putting the marriage together.
No, Tong Tong is the one who put his hand up,
Oh, yeah.
Shiok Tat's it. Anyone speak now?
Shiok Tat's the justice of peace in this one.
Then Tong Tong.
speak now or whatever, hold your peace.
Okay, I speak. Then all the other opposition MPs, speak
But
ignore. Just ignore.
No, not ignore. They were given a chance. They were given a chance to ask.
They were given a chance.
To ask. Let's be very clear about that.
Correct.
I think we have come out in parliament because of that joke.
Then what the response is? I said the wedding vows. If you didn't understand it, let me repeat the wedding vows again. But it's only Tong Tong who look at the WhatsApp messages,
scrutinized it.
Tong Tong and his team, his team.
So overall, like, how are your emotions now? After the dust is settled a little bit.
I'm still annoyed at this whole thing, just damn annoyed at how it unfolded. The responses from those individuals in questions in Parliament, Alvin Tan, Chee Hong Tat, Edwin Tong. It just felt like, Then it just brings a lot of fears that I think many people have to light, that, oh shit, we're not wrong in fearing this. And if there's no check and balance, this kind of shit will happen.
So do you regret not voting for Tan Kin Lian as president?
How you know I never vote?
Oh yeah, sorry. Everyone's vote is secret.
Don't dox my vote, man.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I think everyone just we voted according to our conscience, right? But how do you feel that? Tan Kin Lian said that
he's in Forest City now.
The people's president.
But you, how you feel after this whole thing?
I have questions about the NTUC enterprise and NTUC income side of things, right? I feel like even just looking at the terms of deals, how could this have gone through? And why was it defended so staunchly in Parliament in 6 August, right?
And at the end of the day, they have made it clear that income is not opposed to any deal, from Alliance or anyone else. But I guess now there'll be a lot more scrutiny. But then now I think Alvin Tan said they have really exhausted every option. But then now
But there is also the possibility Alvin Tan also was not privy to certain specific terms, right? There is a possibility. But at the same time, if you're talking, I don't know whether he was representing MAS when he was speaking, or, at that point. I think he's not representing MAS, but you would imagine that MAS would have had that information also.
So if I say something stupid to my wife, right? And then in the end, I didn't have info at hand. I was going to go up to her and sorry, I didn't have this info at hand. So I don't need to apologize.
No, you must look at the timeline of when I had the information.
July, you said this. August, I found out something from someone else. So now it is what it is. There's an urgency. We need to decide what to do for our daughter. There's an urgency.
No apologies, but
no apologies. But
this is all this tea is being spilt about the bad terms of the deal, the Allianz income deal. But on the other side of the globe, also a lot of tea and tears are being spilled about something very close to the hearts of Asian people.
Must be careful which tea,
and must be careful which Asian also.
Which Asian?
And it's a big global issue, right?
Little kerfuffle. Huge kerfuffle. On a recent episode of CBC's Dragon's Den, which is the Canadian equivalent of Shark Tank. Who I'm guessing if you're on social media, you generally know the format. You get these established entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, hearing pitches from people, and who come with a proposed offer of getting funding from them in exchange for equity or royalties. And then there's all this back and forth. So there was this Quebec-based bubble tea brand called Boba. So this is BOBBA, who pitched their drink to the investors, including a certain Simu Liu. And feels like they've been around for 2 or 3 years and they are growing very fast, the Boba company. And they kind of were talking about, 3 simple ingredients to transform the beverage into something convenient and healthier. During the pitch, I think they did say things like, no one really knows what's in boba tea, but we are trying to make it, there's popping boba and it's very popular. And they were asking for $1 million of investment for maybe in exchange for about 18 to 20% equity. So while they were pitching, Simu Liu, I think when they say, no one really knows what's in boba tea, his first quip was like, no, I definitely know what's in boba tea, but, let me hear the pitch. Then after the pitch and all, then he turned down the offer and called them out for not having anyone on their executive team, cap team, or any mention of the origins of boba on their product packaging.
Correct.
And he said he started a VC firm to uplift minority entrepreneurs. But in this case, he doesn't see that here. Yeah, so then there was a whole big hoo-ha online.
Yeah.
Which even led to one of the dragons who invested $1 million to retract her offer.
Yeah.
And also said that she's been receiving a lot of death threats and all that.
Yeah. And Simu Liu also came out and sort of said that, what you saw on the show was an edited version or so, and like what you should not be doing is going to harass the brand or the judges, the other judges who seem to be supporting the brand and things like that.
And what was edited out, he mentioned, right?
He said that the whole, the cast, the crew of Dragon's Den were very supportive of his position of the cultural appropriation. And there were a lot of discussions after the segment, but which were not shown, obviously. So he said that, but that's TV, right? And you only see the most juicy bits, but you don't see the conversations that go on after. And he really called for people not to be trying to, send death threats or nasty comments to the brand or the founders or to the person who chose to invest, because it wasn't just one who chose to invest. Actually, there were offers from 3 of them, right? And I think in the show, the format is that the business has to choose one judge to allow them to invest.
Or one offer, because sometimes they can co-invest.
Or they don't even have to take it, if they don't want it, right? Yeah.
So Terence, as a representative of the culture where, boba generally comes from.
Yeah.
What's your take, Terence?
My take that Simu Liu is a superhero and reminds me of me. When I stood up against racism in a whole group of people.
This is your Subaru challenge.
I saw it. I was Simu Liu himself.
Okay. Explain the context for new listeners.
Many years ago, you and I were in a pre-production meeting for a comedy show. And something came up. An idea of a joke came up, and the joke revolved around using ethnic Indian music, almost like as a punchline or a joke in a show, right?
For my character.
For your character.
Which was the lead character.
The lead character. It was just purely like, it's funny. Ethnic Indian music. It's funny,
And there was some lyrics that was also tried to be funny.
Yeah, tried to be funny. And everyone in the room was like, ha, 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 so funny. So I don't
know whether I was laughing, but I didn't object.
I think if I look from a corner of eye, you also nodding, smiling.
Yeah, okay.
And at that moment, I was Simu. I stepped forward and say, hey guys, I think there could be a bit of concerns that this is, not say it's racist, but it could be racially insensitive, right? And I think at the point the room just fell silent, and everyone just sort of looked at each other, and then there was a bit of like, no, I think it'll be okay, okay. And then after that, that's how it ended. But at least I stepped up and just called it out for what it was.
But you're not Shang-Chi, lah.
I'm not Shang-Chi, so they didn't listen. In fact, I didn't have much of a big role in the whole thing. So, but I still felt it was important for me to step up and point out the injustice against.
And I will admit that at first I was like, "What the fuck are you talking, Terence?" But then now, I think I've grown since, And I think even following that, I was like, oh, actually, I appreciate Terence for saying that.
So I'm just trying to, virtue signal at this point.
No, I give you credit for that.
No, because, at the end of the day, you can say, he's Shang-Chi, he's big star and all that. But you watch the segment, it's quite awkward, right? When he actually steps in and sort of, not say calls out, but really goes against the grain of how the other judges were talking about the product. They were very effusive about, wow, this is so cool, it's so good. Why would you think, this is so heavy, Simu? Why are you saying this kind of thing?
Even the one who invested but eventually pulled out, he said, not everything has to be traditional.
Exactly.
In response to something he said.
Yeah, so it's, even that we think that they are hamming it up and they're, just being dramatic about it and all that, right? But you could tell there's a little bit of tension, in the room when he is speaking up about like that, lah. And that's where I felt that kinship with him, speaking up against a room that was against you, lah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, during that meeting, they didn't really ask for your opinion.
They didn't ask, but I just volunteered it, lah. Yeah, I volunteered it. Then after that, I wasn't that involved in the creative side of things after that.
Yeah. But not because of that, lah.
No, not because of that. But I'm just saying, my role from there, was there. Yeah. So. That was I felt the kinship. How about you? What do you take on this?
I mean, okay, my first take was like, okay, Simu Liu is damn woke.
Woke, okay.
Yeah,
yes,
he's
yes.
damn woke.
Yeah.
I think there was something else also in the past that we spoke about him before.
Correct, we have, yeah.
I can't remember what.
Yeah.
But when I saw this, I was like, oh, it's that type of wokeness lah. You know, where it's like, oh, okay, but also you can't expect every brand to really talk about the heritage of like where that particular thing is from, right? Or what is the origins of that. I think it's up to the brand. Then it becomes a thing, oh, how far along the way must the origin and your company exist? Like Starbucks, they talk about ethically sourced coffee beans and all, but they never talk about where coffee was first discovered, you know? So, I mean, you see that with a lot of things, right? You see all these takes on sushi, you know, sushi tacos and stuff like that. A lot of taco places, there's fusion.
Yeah.
But I think in this case, it was labeled as cultural appropriation. So when I saw it, I was like, I mean, so it's a confusing thing. Like, I can see his point. And I would imagine, like, let's say masala tea, right?
Yeah.
You get these people from around the world and they say, you know, we're making masala tea better, making it fizzy. I also would be like, hey, fuck lah, you know? But can I fault them for wanting to put fizz in masala tea?
Yeah.
Or do they have to talk about the origins of masala tea in the consumer package? I don't know. So, of course, like it became very polarized, and the whole like, wow, Simu Liu is Shang-Chi in real life and all that. Yeah. But yeah, for you?
I mean, I also was a bit like, is he just being way too woke, right? Because I did think, like I went to, I think, Bio Crescent, the food center not too long ago. And I was looking for lunch and something to eat, and I came across this great, like, you know, biryani stall lah. And at the front of the biryani stall was this young Chinese Singaporean boy, you know, who was selling biryani. And I was like, what is going on? So I went up to him. I was like, hey, you know, I really want to try your thing, but like, what's your story, you know? And I literally like struck a conversation with him, you know, and he said that, it's just that he really loves biryani and it was just something that he really wanted to do as a business. And so he started a business cooking and selling biryani, right? Does that mean that it's cultural appropriation, you know? Because it's a Chinese person selling biryani?
You never tell him, you know, I got an Indian friend, you know, close friend, you know, how you feel, you know, if you are making biryani and he cannot?
Exactly. So after I bought his biryani, I tried it. It was delicious.
But did he say that where biryani originates from?
No, that's the thing. There was no box or no like information about where biryani originated from, right?
Yeah.
It was just this, you know, he's a young F&B entrepreneur who really loves a dish very passionately and wants to create the best version of it, right? With his own spin on it and all that.
Yeah.
So would I fault that as cultural appropriation?
Yeah.
No lah, I wouldn't right? That never crossed my mind about cultural appropriation.
Well, why not?
Because I think in Singapore, you know, being a multicultural society, we are exposed a lot already to each other's cuisines and cultures, and sometimes I probably eat more Indian food than you do, to be honest, right? Yeah. So in some ways, just because it's, you know, ethnically Indian doesn't mean that I cannot know it better or have a better take on it, or not say better but I have a more unique take on it than from someone else from another Singaporean right?
Yeah.
So maybe in Singapore's context we don't feel it as much but if you think about Canada and the fact that the two people who were pitching this business were French Canadian, you know, with very heavy like Quebecois accents, and there's certain things they said maybe have rubbed them
like
the wrong way.
No one knows what's inside. And
stuff. Which I think subsequently they clarified that when they said that line, no one knows what's inside, they were talking about bottled drinks in general.
Oh, so it was edited that way?
No, not edited. But I think they say that English is not their first language. You go to the Boba, the Instagram, they have a statement. They say English is not their first language. So what they said was misunderstood, where they were saying that, no one knows what's inside. They were saying more that you don't know what's inside bottled drinks these days. You know, sweeteners. And they're not necessarily saying it's just bubble tea that has that issue, right?
Yeah.
So I think it maybe in just that context of like, you know, two majority race Canadians talking about something that's very close to Simu Liu's heart and bubble tea and sort of making certain statements that seemed very sweeping and generalizing of what he thinks is a very ethnic drink, right? That caused a little bit of this tension between them. But I would still say is it cultural appropriation? Because that would mean that, if you get a Caucasian chef cooking, fusion Korean, American food or something like that, does that become cultural appropriation?
But how much money is he making from it, Terence? Is he making millions of it?
Yeah, if he's a very big chef or anything like that.
So and I realized we've spoken about Simu quite a lot.
We have, yeah.
Yeah.
I just also looked it up,
Yeah, our title, Simu Liu's faulty Facebook post about Kim convenience. Simu Liu might be cancelled in China for something he said 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Simu Liu questions the hiring of Henry Golding on Crazy Rich Asians. So he
lives rent-free in our heads.
Yeah.
And he came to Singapore and didn't visit Yalabat. What the hell, man?
So I mean, like, I find him annoying. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because, this one also.
But you find it annoying why? It's just from his on-screen persona or like the stuff he does off-screen?
I used to enjoy watching like the few episodes in Kim Convenience. I thought, actually this guy is funny.
Yeah.
I think it's more the whole wave of this is me same thing, with Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, there's the movie itself and there's the hype around it. I think Simu Liu is like epitome of like the hype around
So for those people who are not watching the YouTube, what was that face you made just now?
Everybody, Crazy Rich Asians, the best thing for Asians. It's going to change the world for Asians. It's the best movie ever.
Oh, is that you didn't like that chatter, right?
It's for all Asians.
Okay.
Oh my God, wow, it's awesome. But yeah, that whole thing aside, which deserves its own podcast. In this case, I mean, understanding that also all these reality TV shows, they're always heavily edited.
Yeah.
But I guess the bigger question is it wrong for Boba to carry on doing what they are doing and Simu Liu just don't invest? But the thing I took away from it is that they are doing something fucked up and wrong, which to me, I'm like, is it wrong? I don't know. The whole world has businesses that profit off other ideas. Are we saying that, that's not acceptable at all? So I don't know. But I felt the way it was edited, which might not have been the case in reality, was like he was saying you guys are, doing something wrong, and I am started my VC to uplift minority entrepreneurs, and I don't see it here, which is why I'm not going to invest. But I mean, then you just don't invest,
Yeah, but at the same time, I think this question also came up in the segment Why, they were asking why you call your business Boba, right? Even BOBBA, there's an additional B, but Boba is widely recognized as the catch-all phrase for like bubble tea, right? Because remember we had that discussion about a certain theatre company in Singapore that rebranded itself and started calling itself Singapore Theatre Company, right? Which caused a little bit of a ruckus in the theatre community. Why? Because the moment you suddenly give yourself such an official sounding name like Singapore Theatre Company, it kind of makes you like the representative, or in public perception, especially outside of Singapore, it becomes like you are the representative of Singapore theatre, right? It almost feels too official, too general. So in some sense, them just saying we are Boba, do you think that also like almost like just blanket say that this is like the representative of what bubble tea can and should be? And they even say the words that what we're creating is better than bubble tea, right? It felt a bit like what you were talking about, what people say in Parliament, dismissive, right? Talking down to people, condescending and all that. And that's what maybe has rubbed Simu Liu the wrong way.
Because even if you look at their website, their tagline is ready to burst bubble tea.
Yeah. And they said we'll disturb the industry, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like saying like that whole industry is damn jialat, is very bad, and we are going to be better because, we know better than all these traditional people, Asians selling bubble tea. We know like how to make it healthier. We know how to make it more fun, make it pop in your mouth and all that. Right? And that's what maybe has rubbed Simu the wrong way. And even for me, when I watch it, I'm like, a bit arrogant the way that they're marketing it. Yeah. I wouldn't call it cultural appropriation, but I would say it's maybe just tone deaf, right? A bit tone deaf.
Yeah, I guess if you're pitching for people's money, I don't know whether he was guest on that episode only and he's not a norm. I can understand his perspective, and as an investor, he has a right to his perspective. I guess as with all things like this, then the internet becomes charged, and bad things happen where there's all this hate and death threats sent to the entrepreneurs. Imagine right? Imagine if you were sitting on a panel like that, right? And then I went up to the panel saying, I have a better way of making roti prata than
than everyone else in the world, right? And I'm going to create a machine that creates better roti prata than all the people, the billions of people in India and everything. Doesn't that sound a bit like, wouldn't you be like, hey, what the hell are you talking about? How would you feel?
Yeah, so that's why I can understand Simu Liu. I mean, first of all, I'll say, let me try one. And then but also I cannot just jump to the conclusion that, hey, you have no right to make this.
Correct,
let's say you were adopted by an Indian family.
Exactly.
And you spend time in
You're like that Singaporean Chinese guy who speaks Tamil better than a lot of
suddenly you start doing Bharatanatyam or some Bhangra stuff. I can't even speak my own mother tongue.
Correct.
Right? So I don't know whether that was discussed about their own kind of history, but I think the thing that makes this whole thing worse is the internet where people jump to conclusions.
Yeah.
Because if I just told you, hey Terence, you're not Indian, you have no right to do anything with roti prata. That's not fair also.
That's not fair. Because you don't know what the story of
suddenly
the founders are.
You flip the
train
hang time in the prata.
I apprentice in the McPherson prata shop for the
no, you went to India.
Oh yeah.
You went to the origins of prata.
Yeah.
Hey, you think prata is from mountains, is it?
No, I'm just saying.
Why everything in India originates in the mountains?
No. I'm just talking about the Chinese tradition of looking for a master in the mountains to learn kung fu. Hey, don't come and make it about some race thing. I'm just saying the traditional.
You go to the mountains in India, it's like, hey, where's the prata guy? There's no prata guy here.
Let me go and learn like the Xianglong Shi Ba Zhang.
Yeah.
But I do that. What I'm saying is that the founders might have some origin story where they are much closer to bubble tea and the origin of bubble tea in Taiwan and everything that we know. And I think they mentioned in the segment that one of their key partners is also from Taiwan, right? But the way it was edited, it just felt like, it's just something they just brought up. It's not like they, close friends or family or anything like that. Not that you're required to have that to market yourself, right? But I can sort of see where Simu Liu is coming from. Even though we talked about him being woke and everything, but I can sort of see where he's coming from, where he felt, even in that moment, he probably felt a little bit offended the way they were almost like schooling him on a drink that he's familiar with. It was reminded me of that time when I went to buy a donut and then from this new place in town.
Have you said this story?
I'm not sure, but I went to buy a donut from this new place in town, and then when I got to the counter, there was like churros inside my bag also, my donut plus churros. So I was like, "What's this? I did not order this." So I just went to the lady at the counter. I was like, "Excuse me, what is this?"
And you pointed to
I pointed to the churros, and then she was like, this young girl, this cashier came to me like, "Sir, churros are this delicacy that's enjoyed in Europe." And then at that point, I was like, "What the fuck?" I'm being like Gen Z-splained about what churros are. I've eaten churros since I was a kid, like I felt a little bit offended. So maybe in that sense, that's what Simu feels like with non-Asian person trying to tell him about what's a better version of bubble tea.
Yeah. Oh, when you told that story, I was like, I wish I was there. Because I think you said, "What is this?" or something.
Yeah, I just said, "What is this?" Because I was just like, "What is it doing in my bag?"
Yeah.
And she was just gave me that. Yeah, she Z-explained me.
Great. Interesting topics today. Interesting topics.
But I just did want to ask you, so what do you think of the investor pulling out, that particular one investor?
I mean, I think it's just because of all the pressure around it. I can imagine her facing a lot of backlash, internal from her company, external. And as a VC, you also need to think about your business interests. I was disappointed that she pulled out because, I mean, it seems like a very viable business. You could stay on and, be that conscience or like the how you say, the balance.
Because she's not Caucasian, right?
She's Indian.
She's Indian, yeah. So you can talk about minorities in the North America as well, right?
But that's the downside to the internet and the bullying. Because she also said that she had to turn off her comments.
Yeah.
So, it's just, oh my God.
Yeah, tough situation. But I mean, the business also, I think they said that they're going to undergo rebranding and to better understand how they should pay homage, right? To the origins of bubble tea.
Correct. Put Simu Liu's face on every boba.
He should invest in the business. He is all in already, right? He has brought them to this place, right?
Yeah.
But
man.
Another one about Simu Liu. They know that we talk about him so much. And then he come to Singapore and go.
Can you imagine he comes and somehow he gets on our podcast?
Or we do a podcast while skydiving or whatnot.
True.
He did with iShow Speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
But yes,
Cool, man.
cool. And so, what is your one short comment of this podcast?
My one Shiok comment is a shout out to a few comments because basically on our subreddit, I really like how people are very proactively posting articles and saying, oh, when we're going to talk about it. Like Jungle Jimbo 88 said, asked for the waiting for Yalabat coverage of Pritam Singh trial, which we talked about. Furby Bot talked about this Simu Liu issue. It happens more and more, which I really appreciate. Oh, Engineering Legal 8497 posted about a photo of insurer and SPS vehicle, and So I appreciate it to anyone who thinks of here's news and like, oh shit, what would the Yalabat boy say?
Yeah.
So,
in fact,
thanks for
my one short comment is building on that where this Simu Liu topic was brought to our attention, or at least my attention, by someone on Yalabat Furby Bot right, who brought it up as a topic, and even before we talked about it, there's already a bunch of comments and people are already discussing it within themselves There's one thing I love about the community on Reddit
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah, and what is your one Shiok thing?
My one Shiok thing. Let me pull it up. Pull it up. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a one Shiok thing, but it's something I was like, it kind of blew my mind.
Okay.
And it's a bit unnerving. So, we have all this like AI and shit and machine learning and all.
Yep.
I saw this one article talk about the darker side of all this like crazy tech. And there's this website called PIMEYES, PIMEYES.com. And it's a
Pimp Eyes.
PIM.
Pimp Eyes.
Okay, you drink Pim's the drink.
I thought Pimp.
No, not Pimp Eyes. Yeah, Pim. I had to really look it up. That word, Pim Eyes. So it's a facial search engine.
Oh, wow.
So you upload your picture or anyone else's picture, and it will trawl the internet for every place that your face appears.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I tried it on my face. And how they monetize is that they blur out certain ones and they say, okay, if you want to access this, you pay lah.
Yeah.
So I mean, in some ways, it's a step in the right direction because especially for people who, with all the creeps out there, you never know your photo. But the fact is, like, you are now part of the crawler's domain lah.
Yeah.
Because previously, all the web crawlers and all Google search engines, they crawl articles, but now everybody's face, or at least like a majority of the world, would have this line. They also offer a feature to erase your photo from external websites. I don't know how that happens, but I was like, oh shit, this is an interesting company. So it's not a one Shiok thing, but I was like, I was like, oh my god, this blew my mind. Yeah, man,
that's cool.
Yeah, PMIs.
I mean, it's not the Shiok.
It's disturbing. Disturbing.
The whole AI thing.
Yeah.
My one Shiok thing is a video called "Why Nike Doesn't Like Roger Federer." So I've just been watching a lot of videos recently about the troubles that Nike is having. I don't know if you've been following, but they changed the CEO recently, and sales are not. I mean, profits are tumbling, right? And revenue is going down, and market share all is going down for Nike. There have been a lot of videos trying to dissect why this has been happening because during the pandemic, everything went up, but now it seems all be tumbling down, right? And I thought this video probably gave the best overall picture of where the sneaker or shoe market is at. And I think it also talks a lot about the fact that Roger Federer is an investor in On shoes, On running shoes. Yeah. And how On became so popular, right? And has been eating away at the market share of Nike. This is a bit of a clickbait title that makes it sound like there's personal beef between Nike and Roger Federer, but actually it's quite a good overview of like what's been going on in the sneaker market for the last couple of years that really has put like Nike, Adidas, and all these traditional the biggest brands on the ropes a little bit compared to the newer brands like On and all that, which are growing very, very fast.
And how long is the video? It's by who?
It's my athletic interest, it's like 3 months ago, bunch of views. But yeah, it really helps you understand where the market is at now and why Nike's having all these problems.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah. So
cool.
This week there's a lot of interesting things going on. We'll still be monitoring the The Pritam Singh trial.
I mean, we'll
Yeah,
definitely talk about it at some point.
We'll talk about it at some point, and we'll save some of the more juicy parts of, like, when you're there in person, like the things to see for that.
But yeah, so hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you're new or if you have enjoyed podcasts in the past, like our podcast, please do share it with someone who may not have heard of us. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and our wonderful subreddit. And what else?
If you want to work with us, reach out to us at contact@ministryoffunny.com or just check out ministryoffunny.com for all the information you need about us.
Awesome. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll talk to you all soon.